boys and girls. I'm Nana Rose. Today's story is The Crane Wife, retold by Odds Bodkin, illustrated by Gennady Spirin. I had the pleasure of meeting Gennady Spirin and having him sign this. The Crane Wife, retold by Odds Bodkin, illustrated by Gennady Spirin. I'm going to read just up here because it's kind of important to know for this story. The Crane Wife is one of Japan's best known and best loved folk tales. It first spoke to me when a student offered her version of it in one of my graduate classes. I hope my version is close enough to those of the Japanese storytellers who first told it to do them honor. And that's what Odds Bodkin wrote. And then Gennady Spirin wrote, special thanks to Akiko and Martin Callcut, Kyoko and Tai Heineken, and Anne Beneducci for their help in finding visual references from medieval Japan. For my beloved wife, Migalina, may she never fly away. For Ilya and Emily. So it's a folk tale from Japan. Once, in ancient Japan, there lived a lonely sailmaker named Osamu. Osamu's house was built high above the sea on a hilltop. From where he sat weaving his sails, Osamu could see the green salt marsh below, dotted with white cranes. As he pulled the warp and weft of his sail fabric together, he would often think to himself, "Oh, how beautiful the cranes are! Of all the birds, they are the most like sails. It is as if the wind is held in their wings." All his life, Osamu had wished for a wife to comfort his lonely hours at the loom. But with one rice steamer, one pot for making tea, and little else, he knew his chances of finding a wife to live with him were small. Autumn came, the season of storms. Red leaves fell on the dark wood of his porch. One night, as the winds howled, Osamu heard something strike his door. Curious, he looked out. There lay a great crane, stunned and still. Has it ever happened to you? Has a bird ever flown into the window of your house or bumped into your door? Sometimes that happens. "Oh, poor bird," he cried, kneeling. Osamu carefully folded the crane's crumpled wings and carried it inside. How light it was, so delicate. Amazed, he warmed the beautiful creature by his fire, caressing its wings. Soon, its black, shining eyes opened. For 3 days, Osamu nursed the crane back to health. Then, he watched it soar away. Time passed, and one night a great storm blew in from the sea. Through the sound of the pelting rain, Osamu heard a knocking on his door. "Who's there?" called Osamu. Peering out, a beautiful young woman gazed up at him, her black eyes shining. "Who are you?" gasped Osamu. "Help me!" cried the young woman, shivering in her wet garments. "Oh, forgive me. Please come in." Osamu bowed and stared at as she stepped inside. Never in all his life had he stood close to so beautiful a young woman. Osamu served the young woman tea and rice and a little bit of the precious fish given to him by the fishermen in the harbor. Gradually, she stopped shivering. They knelt across from one another. The lamp flame flickered. Finally, he found words. How had she come to him in the storm? Where was her family? Where was her home? Osamu asked her many questions, but all the young woman would tell him was that her name was Yukiko. Time passed. Frost covered the black twigs outside Osamu's window, and still Kukiku had not left. It was beyond Osamu's wildest hope to think that she might stay. He was afraid to ask her to marry him. He had so little. Yet as the days passed, a love grew between them. With no words spoken, Yukiko became his wife. But Osamu was still just a poor sailmaker, and it came to a time in the little house above the marsh when there was not enough food for the two of them to eat. Yukiko saw this. She came to him one day and said, "Husband, I will weave you a magic sail so that you may take and sell in the village below." "You can weave a magic sail?" She pulled the dressing screen across the room, hiding his loom, which sat near the window. "Yes, but you must promise never to look at me as I work." "Why?" Osamu asked. "Promise me," Yukiko insisted. And Osamu promised. Yukiko began to work. Osamu could hear the shuttle sliding and the loom rocking. Hours passed. Night fell. Osamu slept. At dawn, Yukiko was still working behind the screen. This is the outline of a large loom that weaving is done on, kind of framing the words on the page. Beautiful illustration. When at last she appeared, Yukiko looked very tired. "That's natural," Osamu thought. "She has worked all night." But when Yukiko placed the sail in his arms, Osamu forgot everything. Though immensely strong, the sail weighed nearly nothing at all. A sound like faraway whispering lifted from the folds. Osamu put his ear to the sail. His eyes went wide. Yukiko had woven in the wind. Osamu ran to the harbor with the magic sail, showed it to all, and was paid enough gold to live for half a year. Overjoyed, he ran home. Yukiko smiled. So the illustrator studied Japanese paintings so he could match the style. Time passed. Springtime came. Rain fell and the marsh again bloomed green. The white cranes returned. Yukiko and Osamu could hear their calls. was in late spring that the gold ran out. Once again, Osamu and Yukiku grew hungry. Osamu said, "Yukiku, you should weave another magic sail." "Oh, husband, I cannot," she replied. "It takes all that I am to weave such sails. I am afraid to weave another." "But wife, please, one more. I will never ask again." Yukiku loved him. "Do not watch me then." And she disappeared behind the screen. A full day passed. "Yukiku," Osamu called. "Do you want water? Do you want rice?" The only answer was the sound of the loom rocking. At the end of 2 days, Yukiku emerged exhausted, holding a second sail, more beautiful than the first. It too held the wind. Thinking only of gold, Osamu ran to the village and sold the magic sail. Everyone talked of Osamu's skill, for he told no one that it was Yukiku who had made the sails. Again, he was paid enough gold to last 6 long months. Time passed. Autumn returned, the season of storms. The cranes in the marsh grew restless. Their feathers ruffled in the bending grasses and flying leaves. One day, Osamu was visiting the village when a great trading ship docked in the harbor. From it strode a tall captain, a wealthy trader. The captain questioned the fishermen in the harbor, and they all pointed to Osamu. "I have sailed a great distance to find you, Osamu," said the captain. "I want you to weave a magic sail for my ship." Osamu thought of Yukiku and of the promise he had made. "I cannot," he replied. "The 2 I made are the only 2 I shall ever make." The captain laughed. "Make me a sail, Osamu, and I will pay you a lifetime's gold. You shall never work again." "A lifetime's gold?" thought Osamu. "Imagine!